BLOCKTV. It's time now for Hodl with Hedl, a chance to zoom out for a moment and take a wider perspective on some of the heady issues that dominate the crypto markets as a whole. And to guide us on this journey of discovery, we're joined by Bitcoin influencer and thought leader Dan Held. Dan, a happy new year to you.
Happy New Year to you as well. Thanks for having me again.
I think it's still all right for us to say that. It's still the first week of the year. We can still say it for now, but moving forward into 2020. All right, and Dan, to kick off 2020, we kick off the year with a bit of drama, a little scandal, a little back and forth, and the launch of the much anticipated Nakamoto.com. For those viewers who aren't too familiar with it, this website promises to provide technical, philosophical, and academic level articles from some of the top names across the crypto space. But it's already come under fire for claims of tribalism, keeping some members of the community out. Dan, I want to get your take on all this. What do you think of Nakamoto.com?
Yeah, so I've got a lot of appreciation for Balaji and what he did early on in the community. With 21Co, him parting from Andreessen Horowitz as one of the general partners and starting one of the top crypto companies or top Bitcoin companies back in 2014, I think that was a big signal to the community that Bitcoin was something big and something big enough to warrant the attention of a really well-known Silicon Valley individual. Now, zooming forward, I think Balaji, after 21Co and Coinbase, was looking for his next thing, and this looks like something that he's decided to go work on. Nakamoto.com looks to be sort of like a new medium for crypto thought leaders. However, it came under fire by the Bitcoin community because of two reasons. One, it's called Nakamoto.com. Satoshi Nakamoto is the creator of Bitcoin, not any other cryptocurrency, but just Bitcoin. Second is that in Nakamoto.com, that's an important distinction too, because, for example, Satoshi doesn't believe in X, Y, or Z type of crypto assets which would be promoted on this domain. Second is that there's a claim that these individuals are pro-BTC. And I think that's what really came under scrutiny, because this list not only included Roger Ver, who very, very much tried to destroy Bitcoin in earnest with his giant fortune, but as well it had Vitalik. And not only was Vitalik listed as a contributor, but Vitalik was also the moderator on the Nakamoto Telegram group. So yeah, I think the Bitcoin community called out an obvious sort of, really, not a discrepancy or a flaw really, I mean just kind of a giant gap of expectations here. When you say someone's pro-BTC, I think that by definition really can't be Vitalik or Roger.
Now, you touched on that Telegram group, rather, which was sort of a bit of a central point around which a lot of the controversy, scandal, whatnot centered. A lot of people were getting auto-banned from that group, reported getting auto-banned. Speaking on Twitter, John Carvalho was a notable name that came out strongly promoting the hashtag ProBTC movement, sort of an idea to say that really this project is perhaps two-faced, as he suggested. And having looked through that group extensively myself, things devolved pretty quickly into name-calling, sort of back and forth, trolling, the sort of thing that we've seen across other elements of a sort of more open crypto space, and has now been switched by Balaji Srinivasan, the founder of the whole movement, as you mentioned before, to now being in read-only mode. No longer a place for free and open discussion, but rather for comments from particular people who are on the inside. Dan, what do you make of that particular part of this whole story?
Yeah, so again, Balaji's got a ton of Silicon Valley experience. He's got a lot of growth techniques that he probably understands and has applied here. This very well may, this could be a sort of growth marketing strategy. You stir up a bunch of controversy. Later down the line, you pivot and or clean up the image to where, for example, maybe the word pro-BTC is removed, or it actually switches over to another domain. I think it's a brilliant way to drum up sentiment or drum up interest and controversy in the space. I think this is a tried and true tactic by many different influencers and companies. Long term, though, I'm not sure if that really is accretive to it becoming a hub for Bitcoin, at least Bitcoin conversations or ideology. It put a really bad taste in the Bitcoin community's mouth. I just think that ProBTC, using that word and having Vitalik and Roger there as two prime examples, there's many others as well. But having them there, I think the hypocrisy of it was just so ridiculous that I think it was hard for anyone to take it seriously. I think it's a tricky dance to keep Bitcoiners happy. I understand that Bitcoiners are very intense with their beliefs. I think, but that's why Bitcoin has survived this long. If Bitcoiners just said yes to every single change that had happened, Bitcoin probably would have fallen apart a long time ago. If Bitcoiners didn't fervently, fight against Bitcoin Cash or Bcash, trying to rob its brand identity, then Bitcoin very well might have been diluted. And in the mainstream media and on exchanges, Bitcoin Cash may have taken a much bigger root. So I think, for this, like what we're experiencing with Nakamoto.com is Bitcoin's, white blood cells, or Bitcoin's immune response to what is perceived by the community as a stolen brand.
Certainly, an interesting metaphor there about the wider body of the Bitcoin community. One I think many in the sphere would probably be inclined to agree with. But now, speaking of that community, speaking of the technology that underpins Bitcoin as a whole, Dan, we stand now at 2020 on the precipice, a mere 126 days away from the May halving of Bitcoin, when the mining reward block will drop from 12.5 to 6.25 coins. Dan, there have been many that have been out there that have said that this is already priced in, that the market as it stands now is different to the previous two halvings we've seen. This is a different space. The speculators are in, the big game players are in, derivative markets exist. It's not going to see the bump that it's seen in the past. Things are different this time, Dan. Do you agree? Or if not, convince me otherwise.
Yeah, the two bullet points that I'd provide here is that the halvening is priced in for current users or current believers in Bitcoin, but not priced in for future ones. And that's why we didn't see the halvening priced in back in the 2016 halvening and the ones in the 2012. Is that simply put, while the current people who hold and buy and believe in Bitcoin, while we have priced in that sort of future state, I don't think many people have thought about a Bitcoin future. Let's put it this way. I think a vast majority of people have definitely not considered a Bitcoin future or Bitcoin as gold 2.0. I think a very small percentage of the population has bought into that belief. And if you buy into that belief, then the monetary policy or the supply issuance decrease, called the halvening, that becomes, I think, much more impactful, much more meaningful. I do think that there is as supply is reduced, if demand stays the same, then the price starts to creep up. As I've mentioned previously on the show, the price is the signal. Satoshi hypothesized if, the value increased, more and more people would buy in, trying to take advantage of the increasing value, and more people would tell their friends. And so, I think the halvening is a start to the cycle again of a small price uptick. As the price goes up, more and more people talk about it, more and more people buy in to take advantage of the increasing value. And so right now, I think the halvening is priced in for current believers, but not for future ones.
All right. What about other factors that are coming to bear in 2020? I'm talking about, the development of the Lightning Network, which many say is close to being, fit for mass distribution, if not mass adoption. Liquid also coming into play, and also the investment mechanisms. If we're talking about backed or other mechanisms like that are coming on board, complexifying in their qualities and elements, and really setting up 2020 to be a year where, as 2019 may have been a year when things were getting prepared, 2020 could be a year of kickoff. Do you buy into that narrative, and which of those factors do you see being the main driver, if that indeed it does grow?
Yeah, I don't, I'm big fans of Lightning and Liquid, and also, other exchanges out in the space building different financial products. But I don't think that those will be the catalyst for the next price run. The next price run catalyst is typically around the reduction in supply and an increase in demand. Once that occurs, then a new speculative bubble begins. And so I don't think there's any sort of financial instrument that will make that a more probable sort of incident. Additionally, Bitcoin is extremely useful at its core original function, which is Gold 2.0. Lightning or Liquid, essentially ignite the product market fit or the protocol market fit of Bitcoin's Gold 2.0 by adding additional functionality around transactability. I think it's great. I think Lightning is a fantastic tool for both consumers and businesses. As we've seen many different exchanges come online with their Lightning projects, I think this trend will continue. In addition, I think more people are looking at the Liquid network as well. Now, I think those mainly increase the movement of Bitcoin either in very small amounts if you want to, Lightning is good for expediency, cost, and just overall efficiency. Liquid enables many more transaction types and privacy, et cetera. So I think that these are great technologies and they will improve the usefulness of Bitcoin. But I think Bitcoin is ready as is for the next bull run.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if it does manage to pull off that supply drop and that demand increase that we have seen in the past. But that's a future indicator we'll have to look out for. But now I want to hit you, Dan, with a little recent comment that came out from the IMF's chief economist, Geeta Gopinath. Very relevant whenever the IMF, World Bank, or any of those large institutions bring Bitcoin into the conversation. She was recently quoted as having said, and I'll quote to you, Dan, "Advances in payment technologies do not address fundamental issues of what it takes to be a global reserve currency. The dollar's status is bolstered by the institutions, rule of law, and credible investor protection that the US is seen as providing." Now, talking there about the US dollar being replaced as the unit of account, she says that those institutions are key. Those institutions that Bitcoin has sought to remove by its decentralized nature. Dan, looking at a quote like that and thinking about the context in which it comes, do you think that Gopinath is right? Is the US dollar still set to be the dominant currency for years and decades to come?
I think the US dollar will be the dominant currency for years, but I'm not sure about decades. The metrics that she chose to signal a world reserve currency or the viability of a world reserve currency, I think are very poor. The core motto of the cryptocurrency space is don't trust, verify. Whereas a lot of her faith has been put purely in trust that humans won't act like humans and that humans won't do what they've done for 4,000 years, which we have all historical data to prove otherwise. And so she uses institutions as that mechanism to signal trust. But those institutions are governed and run by men and women, and they are innately, at the end of the day, humans that are self-centered and will focus on objectives that are self-seeking. So I think that it's a very old way to look at trust. Trust was formerly in institutions like government, universities, and the professors, and other in the military, et cetera. And as we zoom out and we look forward, we look to this digital age, we look to this age where we move beyond borders, where we move to this global system. What we're seeing is that there's new ways to form trust together. And that's what Bitcoin did in a really elegant fashion. And these old ways, these old metrics, or these old ways to define trust are slowly eroding away as those institutions themselves destroy the trust that they had. Bitcoin would have no place in this world if every government had stuck to the gold standard. If every government was fiscally responsible, if history didn't demonstrate over and over that governments will print more money and devalue their currency. Now, if that wasn't true, Bitcoin wouldn't need to be here. But because of their actions, Bitcoin was necessary, and that's why it exists.
It's certainly, Dan, as we like to say here on Block TV, we may be on the cusp of a brave new world. Just see if people will walk through the door. But in the meantime, Dan Held, I want to thank you so much for joining us in this new year 2020. I look forward to getting your thoughts throughout. It's going to be an exciting one by all accounts. For those at home, stay with us at blocktv.com for all the latest in news and information. I'm Asher Westrop Evans. Thanks for watching.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter